So, but we're here. This is, just to be clear, this is not an annual meeting, since it's April. So not an annual meeting. So I'm not going to do a whole year in review thing, but I think it's helpful to take a step back after a very full program year to talk about what themes have emerged and what where the energy is and excitement levels, and to talk a little bit about what new things have been introduced, and as we head into the summer months. So I thought I'd share a few things that are on my mind, things that we've collectively done this year. But I'm going to focus on new things and new initiatives. So, for instance, yes, Boar's Head was amazing. Yes, Empty Bowls was fantastic. And those traditions are things that will continue. But we're going to focus on some of the newer things that happened this year and talk about how they relate to our broader mission and vision. So as a reminder, our vision really consists of two pillars, right? We have, Bethesda, I don't have to look at that to know what they are, don't worry. But seeing Bethesda as a spiritual oasis, and seeing Bethesda as a beacon of hope. So those, everything that we do fits into one of those two categories, broadly speaking, and we need to be mindful of that. We want everything to fit into our vision, and so undergirding this is really what is in effect our mission statement, which is, most mission statements have lots of semicolons. This is basically love and serve, and the life of faith is not rocket science. It's love God, love neighbor. So I really like this love and serve. And then it's a matter of being mindful that for thriving, growing, faithful congregations, it's all about having 1 foot within the 4 walls of the church and 1 foot planted outside of the church. And there's often a creative tension between those. So it's that sense of wanting to share the good news of the gospel and wanting to share the joy of Bethesda with the wider world. I always think about this in terms of kind of a mission filter. And so there are so many great ideas out there, so many really faithful ideas, but do they really fit into the mission of this place at this time? And so you kind of have a great idea, and you run it through the mission filter. So, for instance, someone might suggest that we turn the Garth into pickleball courts. Now, people would gather, which is great, but it just might be a distraction from our vision of seeing the campus as a spiritual oasis. And so, spoiler alert, we will not be turning the Garth into pickleball courts. So as we go through some of the initiatives from the past year, my son Ben did that. He's really good with Photoshop. I said, Ben, I have this ridiculous idea, and he's like, rolls his eyes and then sends this to me. So, so as we go through this, I just want you to think about looking at all the things that we're doing through this lens, through this mission filter. And so some of the things that I'm going to talk about from this year are building projects. Some of them are ministries. Some of them are programs. Often they overlap in this way. So the first thing I want to talk about is Alpha. Alpha is really the signature program of our new Bethesda Center for Spirituality. And how many of you, out of curiosity, participated in Alpha this time around? Pretty good number in this group. So what it is, for those of you who don't know, is it's basically you have a meal, you have a brief video presentation, and you have small group conversation. It's an 8-week program, and it is intended to introduce people to Christianity. It is intended to allow people, if they if they have been coming to church, to go a little bit deeper, to get to know Jesus a little bit more. But it's really intended at its essence for people who are not yet here. And so it's that sense of looking beyond ourselves. If we're not working to share the love of God with the wider world, with this community around us, what are we doing, right? Otherwise we just become kind of a self-serving, self-perpetuating institution. So we always need to be outward focused and outward looking. We're going to be running Alpha probably 2 times a year. It's an 8-week course, and I got to say, I loved seeing the entire parish hall full of people talking about Jesus. Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. Yes. That's what we do, and we want more of that. And Susan has done an amazing job coordinating this effort with some help from the other guy there. But really, she took this project on and sees the great value and potential in it, and so I'm really grateful for that. So that's Alpha. One of the other things that we did, kind of visible and recently, was the Reimagined Bookshop. Now you kind of see the before and after, and so what is the point of it? Is it just to sell stuff to make a profit? Well, it's a little bit of that, but mostly we see the bookshop, and we had a whole committee involved, kind of as we were rethinking it, but it as a hospitality hub that stands at the very center of our campus. And so it is a place where people will come in and be welcomed. They'll learn about what's happening around here, what are some of the upcoming events, and 3 things are really what we decided would be in this bookshop. The first are books. Thank you, Ed. I almost forgot that one. Books, and so we want to offer resources for people, sort of bread for their spiritual journey, for parishioners and visitors and alike. And so that's obviously a big piece of it. Gifts, just gifts, things, nice, beautiful things, great. And also Bethesda branded items, which we will get to at some point soon. So it's more, what I'm trying to say is it's more than just a bookshop. It's a gathering place, a place of welcome and hospitality, right there in the breezeway. So that's all happening. The next one that I wanted to highlight is the tower lighting project. Now, this is tangible evidence that we are a beacon of light and hope in this community and beyond. It's also stunning. Mm-hmm. Some very generous donors heard me waxing, I don't know if it was eloquently, but kind of looking at the breakers and being like, why is that all lit up? We're a beacon of hope. Why does it look like this? So, and this, by the way, is not finished. We're still going to be adding in another, maybe a month or so, we're going to light the crown at the very top. So it is going to be there for a long time. And it's, by the way, it's visible from across the way. And this is someone, is she in the room? Yeah, she's right here. It's from somebody's condo view, and you can see it. So, and we will do I'm not sure if we'll get to it, whether we'll do it in this spring, but if not, we will do something in November to really highlight this and celebrate it. And I keep thinking about a kind of a garden party. You know that patch of grass across the street? Mm-hmm. A cocktail party out there and watch this thing get lit up, and I think it'd be fun. So anyway, that's that. So we did that. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was not the flower. I love the Flower Guild, but staff transition. I don't know why I came up with this as an image. I was like, what? I don't know. but staff transition. There has been a lot of transition in this community over the last few years, with the previous rector moving on, with assistant clergy leaving, with an interim rector, with a rector search, with a new rector, with new people coming. So it's just a lot of transition. And so really just want to highlight the fact that a lot of transition can be destabilizing a little bit or disconcerting a little bit for an organization. And the church, it can be. So acknowledging that. On the other hand, it can also be a great opportunity. And that's absolutely how I'm looking at this. We've brought in some wonderful people. Joe is an incredibly effective parish administrator, and I'm grateful every day for his ministry around here. And since I've been here, we've also Beth Glass. Some of you have interacted with Beth, who's fantastic, and who was in the reception office and is now doing the financial bookkeeping and doing a great job with that. Marissa Holiday, who is an amazing communications person, and communications is one of my passions, and she's certainly helped to up our game on that. Can we shut that door? Thanks. And Carol Ann Vaughn, we finally have a dedicated stewardship person, and who else? So Jennifer is our new receptionist, and we have Byron as our temporary interim sexton. Chris, who's been all I'm trying to say is there's a lot of new faces, but it's been great having people who are excited about being here, love this place, and want to see us thrive. And so that's good. And there will be more transition, where the vestry just approved funding to hire a third priest, which we desperately need. And of course, we're trying to find someone to lead our children's ministry, which needs to be amazing, and it will be. It can take some time hiring the right people, but I never settle, and I always wait for the right person. And so that's coming, and it'll be exciting. All right. The other thing that we did is the nursery. We now have a first floor nursery. When I first got here, I said, "Oh, that's nice that you have an ECW room. Tell me about the ECW." No, we don't have one. Oh, we used to have one, and that's fine. I was just curious. So what we did, when I heard, again, part of the broader campus space use issues, thinking about nursery, if we're going to truly integrate a thriving children's ministry here, you got to start at the bottom with our very youngest parishioners, and you got to start with a nursery. And to tell parents that, oh yes, we have a nursery, it is up about 4 flights of stairs and then down a hallway, and it's about as far away from the worship space as you could possibly get. That's not really inviting and welcoming. So we redid the first floor nursery in here. Have you all seen it, or at least poked your head in? It's also a visible spot, so that it will let people know that we actually do want families and children to be here. And so that was great. And the numbers we've seen a lot more children in it, especially on Easter. It was overflowing. That's great. We like that. So that, and then the other piece of this, switching around space down here. I don't know if you know about this, but that room in that corner down here is going to be the new flower room, and some of this is to give the Flower Guild proper space for this incredible ministry, and to let them design it so that it really works for their workflow. And so the flower, what do you call it, refrigerator, cooler, whatever that's called, is going to go in that far room, and then a big table is going to be here with all sorts of shelves of what they need and all this kind of stuff. So that is, I took that picture yesterday, so the work is going on. So I guess I could have put that picture with the flowers for the anyway. And then I just wanted to highlight attendance. Attendance seems to be going up, and the 11 o'clock service, I always know when it's when there are more people around, when people have to sit on that side aisle on the left when you come in. Every Sunday there are people sitting on that left side, so it is good. Now, numbers aren't necessarily the best way to quantify spiritual growth and depth and all of those things, but they can be an indicator of renewed vitality and spiritual depth, and so I think that's what's going on, and I'm excited about that. In other words, you don't want to grow just to have more people in the pews just for growth's sake, but because we want to share the gospel with as many people as we can, and so that's what's happening there. I think, Easter attendance was up 25% over last year. The year before we had, I wrote this down, I mean, God knows the actual number, but this is what the ushers wrote. So 1,700, well, basically 1,700 last year and over 2,100 this year. There was overflow to the overflow, which was pretty amazing. And we also had moved the Easter egg hunt back to Easter Day, since it's an Easter egg hunt. There's plenty of town egg hunts out there, right? Anybody they happen in the weeks before Easter, and that's fine. If you want to go to a town egg hunt, go get as many eggs as you can find. But if you want an Easter egg hunt, I think it should be on Easter.
Yes.
And so we moved that to the front lawn, and which is also a pretty visible reminder of what we're all about. One of the other things that we did is signage. So we added some. Oh, yeah, that's signage. We added some signs. Again, part of being welcoming to the community. Part of. I talked to so many people just wandering around the campus, and they'd be kind of wandering around. Maybe they'd get to the garden, maybe they wouldn't. But I'd say, "Oh, have you gone inside the church?" And they said, "Oh, we didn't know we were allowed." And I thought, that's terrible. Of course you're allowed. So we have a sign, at least letting people know that they're welcome. And people are intimidated by churches in general, but especially large, imposing churches on Palm Beach. So they don't know. So we want to let them know. One of the things that we also added were some candlelight concerts this year. Now, some things are experiments. This was definitely an experiment. The idea was we partnered with an outside group who do these string quartets, and it's always string quartets. The music varies, and they're very popular. And we thought about doing this so that more people who had never before experienced our space and our campus would be able to come here, and people have loved them. They're kind of blown away by the space and the experience and all of that. We also had literature available about the church. A number of times, Joe would often stand up at the beginning and welcome people and invite them to come on Sundays, and people did. We actually have had some people start coming to the church because they went to a candlelight concert. That's all good. It was also good for the budget, as we were looking at a revenue shortfall early on. But we're not going to continue to do them. There's the goodwill of the neighbors is a really important thing for us, and so we'll see. I mean, we've been doing more concerts with the Palm Beach Chamber Orchestra or Society, and we'll see. But one of the things that is great about this concept is that we learned a lot of lessons. We learned that, why don't we do something like this ourselves?
Yes.
Right? Why don't we do something? I don't know. Maybe it's a service. Maybe it's an evening vespers service with lots of candlelight and and some chant, or who knows what. But anyway, I'm glad that we did this. And again, with so many things, we kind of throw things up and see what sticks. So another project, Pendleton. Do you know that we own this house across the street on the corner of Pendleton and South County? It's many things, but what it really was to me was an object lesson in deferred maintenance. And assisting, we had assisting clergy living there over the years, and there was thought to sell it. I don't like selling property that is basically on the church campus that is contiguous with it. And selling something is very final. And I wanted to retain some flexibility with this. And so what we're doing is we're fixing it up. Pam Miller has been very instrumental and our junior warden in making this happen. And it is so the compromise is we're holding on to it, but we're going to rent it as an income producing property, at least for a while, and see how that goes. So it's, I don't know if you could tell just how horrible the shape that was in, but it was a kind of a disaster. So that took a lot of, but that takes resources in order to do that, right? So the other thing I'm excited about is, so this is Holy Redeemer in Lake Worth. It is an Episcopal congregation. It's a tiny congregation. It's a Spanish-speaking congregation. And they have the Palanca Food Pantry is there, which we've supported from the very beginning. It's an incredible feeding ministry. We started it working when it started in the early 90s, and we've been supporting it ever since. So we have a relationship with the community there, and I've talked to the bishop about a partnership with this congregation. Our re-energized outreach committee has been great and really excited about working with them. We've been over there and had lunch with some folks over there, and we're really looking at what a real parish partnership might be. Not a big, rich white church coming in and telling them how to do everything. That's not what we're looking at, but something that is organic and authentic to who both communities are. And so we will see. But the other exciting thing about this from an outreach perspective is we give away a lot of money every year. And that's one of the things about the church mouse is it spins off $500,000 or $600,000, and we give that away. Now, a lot of it goes to traditionally has gone to grants, so lots of different organizations. But I really encouraged us to look at it. How can we have a really profound impact in the community around us? How can we focus our efforts and do something really meaningful, and something where when you think about Bethesda and outreach, you think about this thing. And so Holy Redeemer is located, this sort of gives a sense, but it's on 5 acres. It's a big property. That's their parish hall. That the church used to be kind of in front of it, and it was attached to the parish hall. The church blew down in a hurricane about 40 years ago, and so they have a very small worship space in there. The feeding ministry is in there, and they have some administrative offices. But the bishop is very excited about us having some conversations about developing that property and coming up with some strategic partners and leading and really listening to the community. What do they need? So obviously they need space. They need adequate space for their amazing feeding ministry. They would like a small worship space. They don't have a priest, but they gather. They get priests when they can to come in and say the service. Also, what else? I mean, 5 acres. Maybe it's housing. Maybe it's a community center. I don't know. I hmm? What? Pickleball. Yeah, well, it's certainly the topography would lend itself to that.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
but also, I think about, okay, well, what about a church mouse warehouse slash retail space, kind of the church mouse too. You send the couture up this way, but you have items that were affordable that could really help people, and you could employ some people in the community. So all of which is we'll see, but we're entering into those conversations now. I could go on and on, but I really wanted to highlight a few things that are kind of on the horizon. So the biggest thing coming up is that's not on the horizon. Hold on. That is, but so we talk about the horizon, right? Well, the big thing coming up is our centennial celebration. The cornerstone was laid in 1925. The first service held in that space was in 1927. So we have a little bit of a window to play with and to think about how we might celebrate, what events might we have. It's a big deal. And of course, a capital campaign. I would love to see us really raise some money to secure the future of our buildings and grounds forever. And we have an opportunity to do that, to build a preservation endowment that will allow us to back all the maintenance of this beautiful but very expensive property out of the operating budget so that we can focus even more on ministries. So we have an opportunity to do that. One of the things, then there's some capital projects as well. It would be great to make this room amazing, wouldn't it? It would be, and I think we need to. But also, one of the things that we're going to be doing is creating a planned giving society. This is the time, and it's really important. And we have a number of folks working on that, and we'll hope to roll that out probably probably in the fall, about what that will be and what it'll look like. We are going to be doing an updated logo, so you know, and we're keeping love and serve, absolutely. But what do you think about when you think about Bethesda? What do you think about? You think about the bell tower and the 2 palm trees on either side. That's what people think about.
Yes.
You don't really think about the columbarium cross, which I love, but not so much. So anyway, so we're entering into that. As part of this, we're going to be updating our website, which is desperate. I don't know. Have you all been on the website recently? Yeah, probably not. So it needs some work. One of the things that we're entering into is a partnership with the Historical Society, and so we're going to do a lot more archival work and history that we can share, which is great during the centennial as well. But we're also looking at a really unique way to on the website to do a self-guided 3D tour of the space. So it'll be on the website. It will also be something where visitors can come, click a QR code, and follow along on their phone and get the history and point at things and learn about the different windows, the art, whatever is in the space. So and the entire campus. So some technology things that are, I think, really exciting are on the way. We're in the process of doing a capital assessment of the entire property so that we can kind of have a roadmap for we want to know how long the I almost said boiler. I forgot I'm not in Massachusetts. The AC, how long, what's the shelf life? What about the roof? All of these things for the church, for the rectory, for the church mouse, I guess for Pendleton, although that should be in good shape for a while. And so these are some of the things that we're looking at. I know I definitely want to leave some space for questions, so I think I'll stop there and see what's on people's minds? Questions, comments? What do you got? I think we have a microphone too. Oh.
Oh, uh-oh.
Oh.
There was a lot that went on outside, including services on Sunday. And I think they were done during the summer, even though it was a little hot. But I think with the do you remember the 8 a.m. service? Yeah, in the garden. And you talk about it being very hard to get into that church sometimes. It's very easy to say to somebody, just come on into the garden. And that it's not quite so. So I was wondering if there was any way we could pick any of that up.
Yeah, and certainly we must have had 150 people in there on that sunrise service for Easter.
Yes.
That was pretty
It's
great, which we
fantastic.
did out there. Yeah, I'm certainly open to that. We did the Wednesday service out there last Lent, and to some mixed reviews because it gets a little hot. Maybe 8 o'clock's a better time to do it, and probably not in the summer, right? It gets a little hot.
No.
But thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, because it's a wonderful space.
It is.
It's a beautiful space. Yes, and I always like to do services outdoors because it's a reminder that God is not actually under house arrest
Right.
in that building. So, yeah. So, other questions, Tony?
Just really quickly.
Oof.
That's a wonderful feature. I think we need to update the AV as well. That's on the list.
The house that you highlighted on Pendleton, I take it that's going to be rented out as a single family residence?
Yes.
Okay.
Really terrible.
Is attendance part of the lease?
Yes. Right. We're looking for a tenant who can also preach. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I know we're still thinking about many ideas for that space at Holy Redeemer, but is there any thought to having a live, a vegetable gardens or for fresh food, since a lot of their ministries about food, they've got so much land there so that a lot of the people could come and get fresh food as well.
I love that idea.
That's a great
I think that's great. And then to have fresh vegetables for the pantry. Yeah, that's a great idea. I love it. So the centennial, the cornerstone was laid in 1925. Have you ever seen the cornerstone out on the side there? It says 1925 and 1513, which is I know that's when was it Ponce de Leon came to Florida. Yeah, it's a little. I think you're standing right in the way of the camera.
Oh, excuse me. Goodness, how silly.
But I hope you all, if you're watching this, enjoyed the
back
back of Susan's
my
album.
head.
Yes,
Yeah, sorry.
for a little while. Yeah, it's a curious thing. It's a little colonial. I mean, there were people here before the white guys showed up, but anyway, yeah. Oh, and then to answer the So it's really in that 2-year thing. So what happened is they laid the cornerstone in 25. The first service was actually held up in the choir room in 1926, and then the first service was held in the actual church in, I believe it was November of 1927. So we've got a big window to figure out what we're going to do to celebrate. One of the ideas was like, what about a Roaring '20s party? Everybody dresses up. David.
Any talk about the improvement to the parking situation?
Oh, is there a problem with the parking? I hadn't heard. Parking. This is one of these things that is a great problem to have. I'm so glad that we have parking issues, because if we didn't, that would be another set of problems. We're actually, Joe and I just met with the police chief last week because there's just not a whole lot of clarity on, like, for instance, on Barton, can you park on the other side? When can you? It's just, there aren't any signs. It's just not clear. So trying to get some clarity on some of these things will help. Hopefully, I also talked to him about making via Bethesda one way, coming from South County the other way. I've literally seen accidents out my window of the rectory. People keep going down the wrong way. I'm not stalling. I'm just I think everything is on the table. I still, sometimes the suggestions are, well, are we able to secure a parking lot somewhere else, and then we shuttle people? Would any of you actually do that? Yeah, that's
there you are.
yeah, that's my sense. So I don't know, but it's absolutely on my mind. One thing that we've talked about was to make via on Sunday mornings, to make via Bethesda parking only for either disabled or those with mobility issues, and I think that will help a little bit. So, other questions, comments, rants? Yes.
I always park on Barton, and I know your work on this end, but do people pay who live down the other end? There's an awful lot of yellowed out areas that are in front of houses, and when you're coming up, you come off of the Okeechobee Bridge and you turn down, you're trying to come up Barton, but that far end, it's hard to tell, and you park way down, and then you find there's spaces up. It's a lot of yellowed out areas, which do these people pay for privacy?
Let's turn that off. Are you talking about on the side where the rectory is, that street, or the father? Yeah. It's really curious. I think that over time, probably residents have pushed for that. Part of me thinks, did they just get a can of yellow paint and go out there? But I know it's very frustrating, and I think that the chief is in a very tricky position. There are a lot of competing interests and a lot of influential people.
And Tim, I can remember Tanner Rose, who was on the vestry
Mhm.
as a lawyer too. Hopefully I can talk loud enough. Tanner worked on that and negotiated what we have now.
Right.
Because we didn't have those signs up.
Right.
So it's been an ongoing conundrum with the growth.
Yeah.
With this town. And it's good.
Right.
More people coming to Bethesda too.
Yeah, but it's not getting the parking situation is not getting any better, and the traffic is not getting any better. And yes, and that's a challenge that we have. I do have parking lot envy. I guess we could have whole car, around the pickleball courts, they could park in the car. Yeah. Well, I know that we're getting close to. I got to go somewhere in a minute.
Yes.
Is there a final question or comment? Or
Thank you.
thank you all very